Good morning. Welcome to Raw at 4. I'm still Jeff, and I feel real good this morning. Got up at my time, 3:30. I actually changed my sleep schedule in my phone last night, which was daunting for me, man. You know, I think in your mind you say, yeah, I'll get up at 3:30. I'll go record a fucking podcast at 4 o'clock in the morning and it'll be all good. And generally it is. It really is. But it's also a lot harder than I think most people make it. And I don't want to give myself some extra credit or anything, but it is fucking hard, but it does feel good also. Anyhow, part of the reason why I went into that is today I want to talk about the concept of giving 100. Where I'm from, you might say 100, 100, all the same thing. Essentially, it's the idea that you're maximizing yourself. And I want to get into how I think that's important and why I think 100 is it, and some of the things that get me. I don't want to say it's a pet peeve, but when I listen and I look for inspiration in other avenues, a lot of people will talk about giving 120, giving 140, or giving more than 100. And I understand the concept fully, and and I think it's a great thing to strive for. I also think it's quite literally impossible. And because I am such a literal person, I'll just start with the premise of numbers. 100 is out of 100. You can't take 120 out of 100. You take 120 out of 200. So technically, if you give it 120, I feel like you're giving less because you should have 200 in you. And I'll get a little deeper into that. And I'll also talk about why I think that's a little difficult, and why we should avoid the 120 theory and things like that. And the reality is this: there's nothing you would do in your life that you would run at 120% of its capacity. There's nothing that you do in life or have in life that can really exceed, let's say from just a technology perspective, right? We all have a phone or something like that, right? Mine's charging. I didn't charge it overnight, but we all have a phone, and maybe you have 256 megs on your phone, or 512 or a terabyte, whatever it is. When you reach that capacity, it's done. You can't add any more photos, you can't add any more videos. And yes, you put it in the cloud, but that's not the point I'm trying to drive. The point is you have 100% capacity in you, period, full stop. Trying to exceed that will essentially break your system down, or will force you to get a new device, or force you to get something different to add capacity. And I think that's what you really want to do, is you want to stretch out your 100. And I'll say it like this: your 100 from a physical level might be, I could run 1 mile. Okay. When you're done with that 1 mile, you're likely exhausted if you're in a 1 mile shape, but you've given everything you got. You ran the mile, you're tired as fuck. That's your 100. I can run about 10, 12, probably 15 miles, right? I didn't start there. I didn't just wake up and say, hey, I'm going to go run 15 fucking miles. I ran a mile. Then I ran 2 miles. Then I ran 3 miles. And slowly my capacity for 100 stretched from 1 to 2 to 5 to 10 to 15 or whatever it is. I could run for 5 minutes. Now I could run probably for a couple of hours. That is a capacity thing. That is me not wanting to give 100. That is just my 100 might be that big. And how do I give 120 out of that? You're thinking I go this big. No, that's just, you need to stretch your stamina and your capacity to get to 100 and make your 100 stretch bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Otherwise, you'll overload your system and you won't sustain it. You won't be able to carry yourself forward. And I think that's an important concept that I wanted to get out there. And giving 100, I believe, again, there's multiple avenues in which you can give 100. And I think you'll find the most successful people are giving 100. And maybe what you could do is add your 100 until you get to 1,000. And let me break that down for you a little further, or at least from my perspective, right? Depending on where you're trying to go, there's a process in place most likely for how to get there. I want to be the CEO of a company. I want to be a solopreneur, entrepreneur. I want to open up a business, small business. I want to work for a tech company. I want to work for pharmaceutical, healthcare, anywhere. I want to be a janitor, become the vice president of janitorial services at a major company. That exists. You don't have to just be the guy that cleans the toilet. You could be the guy that manages everyone who cleans all the toilets. That's a possibility too. And then your 100 stretches. If you're a guy who just cleans toilets, your 100 here is here. If I manage 1,000 people who clean 1,000 toilets, my capacity for 100 got to be bigger. Anyhow, you'll find that any one of those folks, from my perspective, and certainly from my view and my lens, and some of the successful people I've been around, and the small success I've achieved, it's all about 100 and all your capacities. So I talked yesterday about mind, body, and spirit some. I talked about meditating and praying. And let's just take those three concepts. My mind capacity. Am I at 100% in my mind? Am I 100% in my body? Am I 100% in my spirit? If I take those three things, I could say I have 300% of myself. That's a way to stretch. If you look at super successful people, their finances are pretty much at 100. There's another 100% of that. Their relationships are 100, and you can spread out your relationships. My relationship as a father, my relationship as a mother, if that applies, my relationship as a professional, my relationship as a significant other in general. I'm going to pause here. Okay, I just paused the recording. This is really raw at 4. I was slightly losing my thought, and also my wife was calling me. Yes, she was calling me at fucking 4:15 in the morning because she's getting ready for work and she has to leave soon too. I found myself starting to get frustrated, like, oh, why are you calling me? I'm supposed to be unbothered at this time. But there I go. Did I give 100 just now to that interaction on the phone call? I started not to. First I picked up, I'm like, what? I'm recording, man. You know I'm recording. And frustration builds in, and then you breathe and you're like, wait, that's not the 100 I want to give. And you bring it down a notch, and you have a conversation at 4:15 in the morning. All right, back to my point, my premise. Giving 100, stretching yourself, and I'll get into the stamina and stretching on the day, but the capacity perspective, are you 100 in all facets of your life? Not 120, 140, ignore that. You're going to burn yourself out. It's not sustainable, and you'll never get there. Giving 100 in everything also is extremely difficult. Prime example, just a second ago, I'm having a great time doing something I'm finding I love to do, which is recording, staring at myself recording, which is also odd, but fun in a lot of ways, at least from my perspective. And the interaction with my wife. My mindset was, I'm here, I'm focused on what I'm trying to do. She called, she disrupted me, almost took me out of myself. What we have that in all walks, in all areas of what we do. And the premise for me comes back to my requirement of myself to give 100 in everything. And are you giving 100 in everything? That's only something you can truly answer. And I find that the best thing to do is to break up your segment your life, right? Look at yourself and kind of, I think you'll listen to some folks talk about take inventory or assess where you are. And in some basic perspective, we all need food and shelter. So you're almost definitely working somewhere. And if you're not, you're getting money somehow. If you got to eat, you're getting food somehow. Again, if you're in a relationship, any kind of relationship, significant other, friendship, parenthood, I think that's the word, parenthood. All those kinds of areas, are you really giving 100 in that specific area? And can you compound your 100s over and over and make yourself to 1,000? Can you figure out 10 different aspects of your life where you can give 100 to make that, or make yourself 1,000? I think that's a difficult thing to do, and I'll get into some specifics, at least some detail of how I think I achieve that. And we'll see if it applies to you and if it makes sense. So professionally, I think professionally, at least for me, it's the easiest place to give 100 because you get paid to do a job and there's an outline for how to do your job. And generally speaking, you perform actions across what gets you paid. And getting up and being on time is an easy way to give 100. You come in on time, you leave on time, you get paid on time. All that stuff is good. But do you give 100 in your profession? You know, it's one thing to show up, it's one thing to execute what you're kind of expected to do, but is that it? Meeting expectations. That's sort of giving 100. Do you really do that? Are you applying yourself every day in your profession? If you're that janitor, if you're in IT like myself, if you're a teacher or any kind of service worker, if you're just a menial task worker, right? Or at least that's how you're looking at it. I work in an environment where we have call center agents. Like, are you picking up the phone to the best of your ability? All those things I think matter from a mindset perspective. If you're giving 100, you're training yourself to maximize yourself at every possible angle. You reap more benefits. And I think that's important. And you want to incentivize it. It kind of take a while, I think, to drive to that area, but you have to be incentivized to want to give and max out yourself. And work is easy because you get paid. You put in those 8 hours, that's what most of us work, you know, in and around your profession. How are your relationships? Like, be truthful to yourself. How's your relationship with anyone who matters? You know, a lot of folks will tell you you are the 5 closest people you hang out with. What is your relationship with those 5 people? Are they giving you 100 in return? That's a big question. Like, if I have one person who I consider a really good friend, he and I talk. Every conversation we have, I focus on giving 100. My energy, my time, my attention, my detail to the conversation, my input is at 100. And I expect the same thing in return. Otherwise, I don't have the conversation. Otherwise, I don't have the relationship. It becomes non-useful to me because I'm not maximizing that return. And that's really what it's about, is your return on your investment of 100. And if you're not giving that at every time, then what can you expect back? If I'm giving 80, I'm going to get back 80. If I'm going to give 50, so on and so forth. Maximizing your 100 is awfully difficult, but I think paramount to overall mindset and mindful success. And that's really where I think I want to drive that point and continue to make that a relevant thing for you all. So we're about 20 minutes or so into this video, and I want to kind of sum this thing up here and talk about the key points, I think, to giving 100. One is, there's no 120, there's no 140, there's only 100. That's all you got. And focus on giving everything you got, every chance you get to give all you got. Break down all your relationships, all the things that are important to you in your life, your professional life, your personal life, your non-conscious life, right? There's a subconscious component to helping you move forward and constantly give 100. But being in that mindset of everything I do, I give my absolute all, because the return to me should be the absolute all. And I think that's all encompassing, right? If I'm going to be your friend, I want 100, you're going to give me 100. If we're going to do business, I want 100, you're going to give me 100. If I'm going to work for you, I'm going to give 100, you're going to give me 100. If you're going to work for me, I'm going to give you 100, you're going to give me 100. Family, easy and important, give 100. So I said a lot to unpack. I'll tell you too, that as I close this out, I'm going to learn how to edit. Awfully difficult when I feel like I've just rambled for 20 or so minutes, and I'm just going to post this thing up as raw as possible and hope it makes sense. Somewhat intimidating, you know, because I feel like what I just said made sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you. I hope it applies, and I'm going to give you 100 every time, and that's something you can guarantee from me. So I appreciate you all. I hope you really have a blessed day today. It's about now 4:23. I'm gonna get my mind right. I'm gonna get my workout on. And again, I hope you all are blessed and may everything you seek come to you exactly how you want it. All right. Peace. Roll it forward. Roll it forward.